cure Uncle Shadrach Polk a drinking liquor. One glimpse of that there Jack in his present state, and Uncle Shadrach'll think he's got the delirious tremens, and get so scared he'll swear off whiskey for life. If you aims to lead Joshua to Joel's stillhouse, they said, you'll be all day getting there. You can't hustle Joshua. I ain't gonna lead him, I said. You all hitch a couple of mules to your pa's spring wagon. I'll leave Captain Kidd here till I get back. We'll put him in the corral behind the barn, they says. Them poles are set 4 foot deep in concrete, and the fence is braced with railroad iron. So maybe it'll hold him till you get back, if you ain't gone too long. When they got the mules hitched, I tied Joshua's legs and laid him in the wagon bed, where he went to sleep, and I climbed onto the seat and lit out for Apache Mountain. I hadn't gone far when I run over a rock and woke Joshua up, and he started braying and kept it up till I stopped and give him a ear of corn to chew on. As I started off, I seen Dick Grimes' youngest gal peeping at me from the bresh, and when I called to her, she run off. I hoped she hadn't heard Joshua braying. I knowed she couldn't see him, laying down in the wagon bed, but he had a very peculiar bray, and anybody in the Humboldts could recognize him by it. I hoped she didn't know I had Joshua, 'cause she was the derndest tattletale in the Bear Creek country, and Uncle Jepperd is such a cross-grained old cuss you can't explain nothing to him. He was born with the notion that the whole world was plotting agin him. It hadn't been much more'n good daylight when I rode past Uncle Shadrach's house, and I'd pushed Captain Kidd pretty brisk from there. The mules made good time, so it warn't noon yet when I come to Apache Mountain. As I approached the settlement, which was a number of cabins strung up and down a brushy run, I swung wide of the wagon road and took to the trails, because I didn't want nobody to see me with Joshua. It was kind of tough going, because the trails was mostly footpaths and not wide enough for the wagon, and I had to stop and pull up saplings every few yards. I was scared the noise would wake up Joshua and he'd start braying again, but that jackass could sleep through a bombardment, long as he weren't being jolted personal. I was pretty close to the settlement when I had to get out of the wagon and go ahead and break down some brush so the wheels wouldn't foul, and when I laid hold of it, a couple of figures jumped up on the other side. One was Cousin Buckner Kirby's gal, Kit, and t'othern was young Harry Braxton from the other side of the mountain, and no kin to none of us. "Oh," says Kit, kind of breathless. "What you all doing out here?" I scowled, fixing Harry with an eye which made him shiver and fuss with his gun belt. "Are your intentions, Honorable Braxton?" "I don't know what business it is of yourn," said Kit bitterly. "I makes it mine," I assured her. "If this young buck can't come sparking you at a respectable place an hour, why I figures—" "Your remarks is ignorant and insultin'," says Harry, sweating profusely, but game. "I aims to make this here young lady my wife, if it weren't for the toughest prospective father-in-law ever blighted young love's sweet dream with a number 12 boot in the seat of the pants. To put it in words of one syllable, so's even you can understand, Breckenridge," says Kit, "Harry wants to marry me, but Pap is too derned mean and stubborn to let us. He don't like the Braxtons, 'count of one of 'em skun him on a hoss swap 30 years ago." "I don't love 'em myself," I grunted. "But go on." "Well," she says, "after Pap had kicked Harry out of the house 5 or 6 times, and dusted his britches with birdshot on another occasion, we kind of got the idee he was prejudiced agin Harry. So we has to take this here method of seeing each other." "Why don't you all run off and get married anyway?" I asked. Kit shivered. "We wouldn't dare try it. Pap might wake up and catch us, and he'd shoot Harry. I'd taken a big chance sneaking out here today. Ma and all the kids are all over visiting a few days with Aunt Washita, but Pap wouldn't let me go for fear I'd meet Harry over there. I snuck out here for a few minutes. Pap thinks I'm gathering greens for dinner, but if I don't hustle back, he'll come looking for me with a hickory gad." "Aw, shucks," I said. "You all gotta use your brains like I do. You leave it to me. I'll get your old man out of the way for the night and give you a chance to skip." "How'll you do that?" Kit asked skeptically. "Never mind," I told her, not having the slightest idea how I was going to do it. "I'll tend to that. You get your things ready, and you, Harry, you come along the road in a buckboard just about moonrise, and Kit'll be waiting for you. You all can get hitched over to Warpaint. Buckner won't do nothing after you're hitched." "Will you, sure enough?" says Harry, brightening up. "Sure I will," I assured him. "Vamoose now, and get that buckboard." He hustled off, and I said to Kit, "Get in the wagon and ride to the settlement with me. This time tomorrow you'll be a happy married woman, sure enough." "I hope so," she said, sad like. "But I'm betting something'll go wrong and Pap'll catch us, and I'll eat my meals off the mantel board for the next week." "Trust me," I assured her as I helped her in the wagon. She didn't seem much surprised when she looked down in the bed and seen Joshua all tied up and painted and snoring his head off. Humboldt folks expects me to do unusual things. "You needn't look like you thought I was crazy," I says irritably. "That critter is for Uncle Shadrach Polk." "If Uncle Shadrach sees that thing," says she, "he'll think he's seeing worse'n snakes." "That's what I aim for him to think," I says. "Who's he staying with?" "Us," says she. I says. "That there complicates things a little. Where at does he sleep?" "Upstairs," she says. "Well," I says, "he won't interfere with our elopement none. You get out of here and go on home, and don't let your pap suspect nothing." "I'd be likely to, wouldn't I?" says she, and clumb down and pulled out. I'd stopped in a thicket at the edge of the settlement, and I could see the roof of Cousin Buckner's house from where I was. I could also hear Cousin Buckner bellering, "Kit, Kit, where air you? I know you ain't in the garden. If I have to come hunting you, I 'low I'll all keep your britches on," I heard Kit call. "I'm a comin'." I heard Cousin Buckner subside into grumblings and rumblings like a grizzly talking to himself. I figured he was out on the road which run past his house, but I couldn't see him, and neither he couldn't see me, nor nobody could which might happen to be passing along the road. I unhitched the mules and tied 'em where they could graze and get water, and I hoisted Joshua out of the wagon, and taken the ropes off of his legs and tied him to a tree and fed him and the mules with some corn I'd brung from Cousin Bill Gordon's. Then I went through the bresh till I come to Joel Garfield's still house, which was maybe half a mile from there up the run. I didn't meet nobody. Joel was by hisself in the still house, for a wonder, but he was making up for lack of trade by his own personal attention to his stock. "Ain't Uncle Shadrach Polk nowhere around?" I asked, and Joel lowered a jug of white corn long enough to answer me. "Naw," he says, "he ain't right now. He's likely still sleeping off the souse he was on last night." "He didn't leave here till after midnight," says Joel, with another pull at the jug, "and he was taking all sides of the road at onct. He'll pull in about the middle of the afternoon and start in to fillin' his hide so full he can just barely stagger back to Buckner Kirby's house by midnight or past. I bet he has a fine old time navigating them stairs Buckner's got into his house. I'd be afeared to tackle 'em myself. even when I was sober. A pole ladder's